If you can understand this one concept, then you will never have to rely on anybody else for your health or your physique ever again. You will understand diet to its core. You'll know how to shop. You'll know what to eat. You'll know what not to eat. You'll be able to transcend calorie and macro counting forever. You're never going to be weighing out food. You're never going to have to ask somebody else like, oh, is this okay? Is this not okay? You're just going to understand it. And it comes down to this: considering your food's history. I was stuck for so many years, or rather I was just kind of burning myself out over and over and over, where I'd make progress and fall flat on my face, or I'd make a little bit of progress because I'd suck it up and eat less and move more and all that, crap that the fitness industry is always pushing. And I could never build any momentum. I could never get to a point where I was consistent and find a sustainable diet that worked for me, that helped me not only look awesome, but helped me thrive, helped me feel amazing, have good energy, vitality, brain power, mental focus, just feel like a teenager, even though I'm getting into my 30s now, becoming an older guy. You start to lose that edge, lose that luster, you lose that fire that you used to have. And that's always going to be available to you if you have the right diet, if you have the right fuel. The problem with most bodybuilders and other, fitness bros and, gym bros and anybody that's trying to, count macros, do cardio and live an active lifestyle, but they're just stuck eating protein supplements, whether it's protein bars, protein shakes, protein cookies, you name it, they're throwing everything out. There's all sorts of keto foods nowadays. There's like keto bread, there's keto candy, there's all these like 0 calorie, 0 sugar foods that are supposed to be healthy, when in reality they're devoid of micronutrients and they're actually full of synthetic compounds that nuke your hormonal health and basically rot your bones from the inside out, and to the point where, yeah, maybe you can make a little bit of progress and get into a calorie deficit for a short little while, but it's unsustainable, because as you're losing body fat and as you're, chiseling down and, just kind of putting yourself through the ringer, you're also nuking your hormonal health, which is not going to be sustainable in the long run, because you're not really giving yourself any valid fuel at the end of the day. Your food, it all has a biography. It's kind of like a Carfax. Like when we buy a new car and, we decide where we're going to put our hard-earned money, we really like to take a long look and talk to the owner and figure out the history of, who had the car before us, where it's been, what it's been through, right? What's in the car, what's not in the car, like what I'm gonna have to look out for in the future if I do decide to take this on as my, my steel chariot or whatever you wanna call it, right? But when it comes to food, nobody really thinks about that. They just look at a surface level, like chicken, is that healthy or not healthy? When that's not the right question. People think about chicken, rice, and veggies as the, end-all, be-all, perfect diet if you want to get in shape, and it's not really the case. I would argue that that's the worst diet. Vegetables are probably the biggest phony in terms of like healthy foods. Not that they're bad per se, but you can definitely get the nutrients that you get from vegetables from other things. And if you don't like vegetables, or if they're harsh on your gut and they make you gassy and bloated and, they make you feel horrible, and they're horrible to eat because you have different sorts of taste buds that don't align with eating a salad every goddamn day, you don't have to eat that. And I would argue that you're better off not eating those things if you could just find a different food that is going to support you in the micronutrients that you would be getting from whatever that is. But in any case, getting back to your food's history, every single food is on a health spectrum at the end of the day. Right? Like talking about chicken. Is chicken healthy or is it not healthy? That's what people will say. Like, is red meat healthy or is it not healthy? Are eggs healthy or are they not healthy? Thank God the FDA just recently brought eggs back on the market for most people. There was a long while where dietary cholesterol was a bad idea to have in your diet. That's why people demonize things like red meat, dairy, eggs, stuff like that, right? So it's not the idea that are eggs healthy or are they not healthy. I would argue that they are healthy with an asterisk. It's not are they healthy or are they not healthy, it's are these eggs healthy? Is this chicken healthy? Is this red meat healthy, right? I'm not even talking about like chicken breast or not chicken breast. I'm talking about like what type of chicken breast? Where was the chicken before it got to me? Like let's talk about this health spectrum thing for a quick second. Again, it's like a spectrum. Take red meat, for example. I talk about this with my coaching clients all the time, and we have some real like unfortunate and like painful conversations sometimes. I feel like I'm breaking people's hearts because they bring these foods to me that they think are healthy per se, and I have to talk about them and sort of reverse engineer the thinking process to land on the fact that it's like a synthetic piece of crap. But in any case, red meat on one end of the spectrum is going to be bad, and one end of the spectrum is going to be good. So on this side of the spectrum, the bad side, you got hot dogs and bologna, processed trash full of microplastics, parasites, and all sorts of other crap, right? And on this side, you got 100% grass-fed, organic Wagyu beef that was from a cow that had a really low stress lifestyle, right? So in every single food, there's a spectrum. There's foods on the bad side and the good side, and then there's stuff in the middle. Ideally, you're all the way over here as often as you can be, and far away from this over here. Now, I'm not gonna say that when I'm out to eat with friends and family that I'm not thinking about this less and less, because I don't wanna get super worked up over the quality of the food if I'm going out to celebrate somebody's birthday or their engagement or a wedding or or whatever it is, right? You don't want to forget the essence of why you're out to eat. But in any case, I can always think about, hey, which side of the health spectrum am I on? How far over here can I go in this situation without being a pain in my ass? And so what I would invite you to think about is the food's history. You don't want processed, you want single ingredient whole foods, ideally farm to table, right? Like in a dream case scenario, you're the farmer because you're the one raising the livestock, you're the one growing the crops, you're the one who's deciding which soil to grow the food in and which feed to give to your animals, and like the life of those animals and how you're gonna slaughter them and package and like process the meat into whatever whatever sort of selection that you would like for yourself to pack in your freezer down in your basement or whatever, right? Next best thing, you know a farmer, your neighbor's a farmer or something like that, right? Next best thing, you go to a farmer's market. What's next after that? Maybe you get like a farm delivering to your house. I guess that's still on par with like if you're the farmer, the farmer is your neighbor or something like that, right? What's after that? Probably a high-end grocery store. Things like Whole Foods, Sprouts, maybe Erewhon. I mean, there's things in your area that you're gonna have to take a look at and see, hey, what's the best option for what I've got in my area, in my geographical location, but also like money comes into it, right? So when I was back in the day, like first starting my business, had no money, I couldn't necessarily go out to eat at Whole Foods. I didn't even have one in my city, so it wasn't even an option. But I definitely wasn't ordering food from Miller's Biofarm, where they're an Amish farm in Pennsylvania. They have 100% grass-fed organic ground beef, A2 cows, A2 raw milk. All the anabolic foods that I talk about, I get from those guys. I didn't have that option when I lived upstate in Beacon. I didn't have that option. I went to a place called Key Food because I was trying to spend like maybe less than $100 a week on food, if that, right? So you gotta make do with what you can, wherever you are. And again, always think about the spectrum. Where am I at on the spectrum? How can I get as far over here as I possibly can without going out of my way where it's like disrupting my personal and professional life more than it really needs to? Like, take working out, for example. It's stressful at the end of the day, but you don't need to stress yourself out any more than you really need to. Like, the point of working out is to add and apply stress to your body so that your body adapts and grows in a way that you will be better next time, so that you'll look better, feel better, and all the rest, right? But you don't need to work out so much that you're like a zombie when you're walking around at work. You can't think straight as you're working with clients. Deals are slipping through your fingers. You go home, your family's trying to have quality time with you, and you're just like rocked from the gym or whatever. I'm not saying that it's not gonna be easy sometimes, and you're not gonna go through discomfort, but you don't wanna be more stressed out than you really need to. So it's the same thing with your diet. You wanna be as as efficient as you possibly can with getting the highest quality food, but you don't want to go so overboard that you're killing your wallet, or you're just making a big deal out of nothing as far as like not eating with people that you regularly see, or being so like such a pattern interrupt in people's day in life, like your family and whatnot. Like, you obviously want to be that person that's leading by example and whatnot, but bringing it back to considering your food's history. I have a story that I want to talk to you about that I think really paints the picture of why this is important. I grew up, not even really counting calories and macros at first, but once I started counting calories and macros, I got shredded for the first time within 8 weeks. It was amazing. And what I was doing is I would wake up, I would do intermittent fasting. My boy Greg O'Gallagher put me on back in 2017. I would sit out on my porch in the sunlight around 2 p.m. maybe. I would have some fruit. Then I'd go to my serving job down the street at this craft beer bar. I might have a burger, I might have a steak and like chicken breast with some veggies or whatnot. Stop at the gas station on the way home. I would get a Metrix crispy apple pie protein bar. Nowadays, I know that's full of seed oils and all sorts of synthetic artificial gunk, but I would get one of those and a Core Power 42-gram protein shake. Also a synthetic concoction of dog crap that is not going to be helpful for your insides. That's what I was eating, and I made a lot of progress with that. Honestly, like, not the worst thing in the world. It's just like the back half of that, where I was eating potentially a burger from this restaurant where they're cooking in vegetable oil, polyunsaturated fats, creating inflammation and all sorts of oxidative stress inside of my body. All the other things that I was doing were keeping my testosterone in somewhat of check, but I really just experienced the benefits of the weight loss because I had the calories and the macros in place, right? Like, my metabolism was in a certain spot and I undercut it by creating a deficit through eating less calories whilst maintaining my training and, trying to add more weight or reps to each individual set of every workout and making sure that I was sleeping and getting some steps at my weighting job, right? So after a while of me just focusing on calories and macros, I was like, whoa, I got it. Like, I got shredded within 8 weeks or whatever it was. Then over the next 9 months, I packed on like 15 pounds, and then I dropped another 10. So maybe over the course of a year, I added another 5 pounds of muscle. And I had already been lifting like 4 or 5 years at this point. So I guess that's decent progress over a year. But the next 2-3 years of me just focusing on calories and macros, I really started to unknowingly poison myself and hurt myself and really disrupt my endocrine function, which is what was dropping my metabolism lower and lower and lower and lower. Now, bringing it back to the thing I said earlier about like creating a calorie deficit, what does that come down to? Undermining your metabolism. So if your metabolism is here, you eat less calories than you're burning. So let's say your metabolism is here, or your maintenance calories, a lot of people would say. The amount of calories you would have to eat to maintain your weight, not gain or lose any weight. If you're eating this amount of calories, your body weight's gonna stay the same. If you're eating this amount of calories, this gap equates to weight loss. And that's why eventually over time, if you're training correctly and sleeping well and getting minimum protein requirements, you should be chipping away primarily body fat. Now, the problem arises in, this metabolism thing. Over the course of a cut, your body will adapt to however many calories you've been giving it as a survival mechanism, so you don't just wither away and die, right? And it's smart in the way that it does this. The other thing that can affect your metabolism is the quality of the food. It's not just, am I getting these foods that are gonna boost my tests or, increase the anabolic hormones that are within my body naturally present? A lot of the times it's like, okay, which toxins are going to disrupt my hormonal function? Which toxins or which compounds in these foods, are going to hurt my hormonal health and my thyroid to the point where my metabolism starts to drop altogether, on top of the fact that I'm eating less calories. And as my hormonal function and my thyroid health and my metabolism starts to drop, what else drops? My mood, my energy, my vitality, my brain power, my mental focus. you can't think straight, you're in a bad mood, you're a cranky little jerk off, and before you know it, it's getting tougher and tougher to maintain that calorie deficit because you're so like antsy and anxious and pissed off all the time. But eventually, the deficit stops working, because if you're eating this amount of calories, in the beginning you were in a big deficit, right? But over time, your metabolism dropped, and now you're like not even in a deficit anymore. And why would you continue to do something that isn't offering you results? If there's no positive feedback loop, there's no reward, and there's no payoff after a considerable amount of time, like everybody's got their breaking point, and it's gonna come a lot quicker if you're not giving your body the proper fuel. So how do we figure out what the proper fuel is? Consider your food's history. It's not just red meat. It's not just organic ground beef, right? What was that animal fed? What was it pumped full of, right? Was this animal pumped full of vaccines and antibiotics and other hormones that are supposed to like increase the size of the cow so that they can sell it for more money? What was sprayed on this produce? Was it sprayed with pesticides, insecticides, other growth hormones to make it grow bigger? Like, most of the fruit nowadays is not supposed to be as big as it is. You see these jumbo blueberries or these jumbo grapes, these massive oranges in the store. They're not actually supposed to be that big. Chickens in general, chickens are actually a very small animal. It's when they pump them full of growth hormones, they actually grow super big, and they can make more money off of that. They do the same thing with chicken in the way that they just pump it full of water and other like substances after they slaughter it, so they can sell it for a higher weight and get more money out of it, even though it's not more chicken. It's like you know how you're gonna weigh more if you have more water retention. If you're drinking a ton of water and a ton of salt and you're not really moving around, not sweating at all, you're gonna blow up like a blimp, right? They do the same thing with this chicken, and I guarantee there's some stuff in that chicken that is not gonna be good for you. You don't want to be eating Purdue, Tyson, any of these meals, any of these chicken companies that you'd find at like Walmart or these like lower level grocery stores, which are really just trying to make a buck. I hate to break it to you, but the discount grocery store does not have your health in mind. If you're cheap with your health and cheap with your diet, you're gonna have cheap health, okay? So considering your food's history, what was the animal fed? What was it sprayed with? What was it pumped full of, right? What was the animal's life like? The stress of the animal will be transferred into you. That's a little bit more deep of a conversation, which I don't really want to go into right now. But it's also like on the same level as what was the quality of the soil? This is one of the biggest breakthroughs that I've had in a long time, is like the soil and how fertile the soil is will determine the micronutrients that are within your red meat or your cow milk or whatever dairy or meat that you're actually consuming. So what is the point of 100% grass-fed if it's being fed grass that's on grass that's like getting the crap beat out of it over many years? You want to look for regenerative farming, okay? Because like farmers, this is a whole farming conversation. Farmers will often leave certain fields dormant for a certain amount of time to let it revive itself, to let the life of the soil come back. Because if you're just beating the heck out of that soil, letting the cows graze on it year after year after year, or you're like growing stuff in it year after year after year, there's no micronutrients coming from the earth. The Native Americans and the people indigenous to these lands where they were living off the livestock, living off cattle, like and these wild animals for years on end, they were so smart because they realized, okay, I can't go outside and eat some grass, right? But I can, but I know that there's micronutrients that are within this grass. So instead of me eating the grass, these Native Americans thought to themselves, whoa, the cow has like 3 or 4 stomachs, right? Whatever it is, that cow can process that grass and sort of filter out all the crap and get the micronutrients inside of its body. And then if I consume the milk of that cow, or I consume that cow's meat, steaks, ground beef, whatever the case, I can ingest those micronutrients and still get the full benefit of the soil. See how that works? The animal is like a filter for the micronutrients that are in the earth. Like everything that we need comes from the earth, whether it's fruit, juice, right? Vegetables, if it's meat, like all sorts of things, they're coming, the nutrients are coming from the earth. So the animal is just a filter for that stuff, right? Same deal with the bees. The bees go and harvest all the pollen, all the different stuff from flowers, and they come home with the pollen. They create the honey and all sorts of other foods like royal jelly and propolis, all these different things that can improve your health because of what they have gone out and retrieved for us. So it's the same thing when you're getting chicken from Walmart, right? I really advise you you don't get chicken from Walmart unless you're in a situation where you really just got to make do with what you got. At the end of the day, I don't want you going to McDonald's. I'd rather you eat at Walmart, okay? You're the farmer, that's the top. You're the top of the totem pole. Next is like farmers markets. After that is a high-level grocery store. After that is just a regular grocery store. ShopRite, Stop and Shop. What do they got down in the South? Publix, I don't know, stuff like that, right? Below that, what is it, like discount grocery store? Then there's like a gas station. Then there's like food cart on the side of the road. I mean, if it's a farm stand, like maybe that could be good, but you definitely don't want to be in New York City getting a hot dog, sitting in that water all day. God knows what is in that water and what is in that hot dog, whether it's parasites, microplastics, both, all sorts of other additives and preservatives that they use to increase the shelf life of that hot dog that is going to go inside of you and just wreak havoc on your insides. But I'm going on a tangent right now. Consider your food's history. The one moment that really clicked in my head with all this stuff is, and it didn't happen right at that moment. It was like, okay, I heard the story, the lesson landed, but it didn't actually land for another couple of years until I really destroyed my health. This is back in like 2019. I used to work concrete construction, and at this time of this story, I was working as a laborer for a general contractor. And we're riding in this box truck. This guy's truck was so, this guy's truck was so like rickety. We'd be driving through Poughkeepsie, and we'd be on the arterial, and there's all these manholes all over the arterial. We'd hit a manhole and it would sound like the truck's skeleton just shattered. Like it sounded like an atomic bomb went off. Like the earth was just like in an earthquake. It was like the loudest sound of my entire life. My boss got so angry. It got real quiet in the truck after that. But in any case, we're driving past this airport one time. I think down in Wappingers, and we're going by this airport, and I'm looking off in the distance, and I actually see a big herd of deer. And there's this one deer that has a massive rag, maybe probably 8-pointer, I don't know, maybe it could be a 10, maybe it was just a 6, but it looked big. And from afar, he was definitely the head honcho of that herd. And so I'm looking off in the distance, and I grew up hunting in upstate New York, that's where I'm from, and mainly just in the back of my dad's property, but also up in New Hampshire. But I say to my boss, I look over to him, I'm just riding in the passenger seat, I'm like, dang, wish I had my gun. I would have just shot this dude right out the window right here. Obviously joking, but he goes, yeah, that would have been a nice deer to have above the mantle, like above the fireplace, but you definitely wouldn't want to eat that deer. And I was like, huh, why do you say that? And he goes to me, so this is an airport here, right? And I was like, yeah. He was like, it didn't always used to be an airport. This used to be a dump. They built this airport on top of a dump back in the day. So all that stuff that was seeping into the earth, all those toxins, chemicals, you know, it was probably like a scrapyard. There's like battery acid, like gasoline, all this different stuff soaking into the earth and into the water table, all the produce and all that vegetation, the grass, the bushes, the trees, all that stuff is growing up with all that stuff probably in it. So those deer are probably gonna have offspring with like 3 heads. He was like, you definitely don't want to eat that deer because anything that's in the earth is going into the deer and it's going to go into you. And this was like, I was like, I had never thought of that in a million years. And I honestly just forgot about it. And I got back to my day and I went home and I probably had, you know, Lenny and Larry's protein cookie with all that crap in it. And I went and had like chicken breasts with Frank's Red Hot and like some oats with some 0-calorie pancake syrup and peanut butter from like Skippy and, you know, all these different crappy foods that I used to eat. But 2 years later, when my health started to take a real downhill and downward spiral, that's where I started to recall these lessons that my boss had taught me in the past and all these like practical conclusions that people had helped me come to. And so you really want to consider your food's history. This is so important. This keeps people stuck for so long because, yeah, they're eating the right amount of calories, they're doing their cardio, they're living an active lifestyle, they're sleeping well, they're eating the supplements that their favorite influencer is jamming down their throat every day on Instagram and TikTok, but they're not getting to that state of vitality that helps them thrive. They might be surviving, but they're not thriving. You don't want to just be focused on calories and macros. You want to transcend that eventually. You should get to a point where you're not even thinking about that. You're just going off your own intuition, going by nature, and just like acting on your own hunger and acting like eating when you want to eat and training regularly 3 times a week is what I do, and that's what I recommend that everybody does. Big ass truck going by, the sanitation truck. But you want to get to a point where you are burning, like I said earlier, so many calories that you couldn't possibly overeat. But you're so consistent eating these anabolic foods, right? Meat, eggs, fruit, dairy, bee products, some tubers like sweet potatoes, raw carrots, maybe some onions. I don't like onions. But taking like the best food for your hormonal health, blending that in with the food that you actually like, and then keeping it within the calories and the macros suited for your goals for a specific amount of time as you continue to stack up your metabolism until you get to that point where you're eating so much food that you're stuffing yourself sick every day. And it doesn't matter if you're tracking, because you're eating like over 3,000 calories every day, right? If you're eating that much food, what does it matter that you're tracking like 3,000 versus 3,500? Like if you get to your dream physique and you have the energy, you have the vitality, you're able to maintain your body weight and your physique and your body fat percentage, you have the abs, you have the shoulders, the chest, the back for the V taper, you look like something out of a movie, right? You look like something out of somebody's dirty romance novel. You look like the hero. If you have all of that in check and your kids are looking up to you like a superhero, and you feel like you could take on the world and you don't even have to think about your health, how crappy you used to feel, how unhappy you used to be with your body fat percentage and how you looked in the mirror, all that stuff falls to the background and you can focus on the stuff that actually matters. What is it gonna matter how many calories that you ate on that day? If you're able to just go off your own intuition. This is where you wanna get to. This is living. All this stuff regarding calorie counting, your energy expenditure, this is all a waste of thoughts in my opinion. I want to help you check the box off so you can focus on the important stuff, right? And you do that by considering your food's health, starting from the bottom, nurturing your hormonal health with the foods that we evolved on, the stuff that is going to boost your testosterone, your thyroid hormones, dopamine, lowering stress hormones, and increasing reproductive hormones, stuff like testosterone, DHT, or thyroid, all that stuff, and dropping estrogen, cortisol, prolactin, all these things that are antagonistic to your thyroid, because your thyroid is what controls your metabolism. And if you can boost your thyroid health, you boost your metabolism, meaning that you can increase the amount of calories that you're burning. That means that you don't have to eat so little food to shred body fat. And if you're trying to gain weight, you can eat more food and not get fat, but you can also maintain your insane physique that you've built up through all these anabolic methods with more food. And so you can get to a point where you don't think about this stuff anymore. I remember what it's like to wake up in the morning and not be happy with my physique. And a lot of people, they wake up, they look in the mirror, I talk about this all the time. It sets a bad tone for the day. you're like, damn, still can't see my abs, still got that the love handle, still feel like I got that tire sitting around the top of my belt, still got to pull my shirt down as I'm walking around, right? Like, maybe you're not even obese or anything. Maybe you're not too chubby. Maybe you're just not lean. So going to the beach, going to the pool, or wherever you are over the summer, like, we're getting to the point of like mid-August right now. It's way too hot to hide under clothes at the moment, especially, I mean, over the entire country, definitely not down south. Goddamn. But you shouldn't have to think about this stuff, because if it's setting a bad tone to the day, it's gonna just destroy your productivity, your creativity, your mood, and you can't show up for the people around you. You can't show up for the team that you gotta lead, or the clients that are depending on you, or whatever it is that you create, whatever value that you bring to the world, it's gonna be at a lesser degree if you can't bring your A game, your A+ game, right? And then you get home, what do you got left after you just spent your whole day trying to survive? Now your family gets the short end of the stick, and you're going to bed. You're thinking about how crappy your day was and how short you fell of all the expectations of the people that were looking for you to be their hero. And then you're going to bed and you're sleeping, you're dreaming about it. You wake up, you do the whole thing over again. I remember what it's like. You got to get this in check. All right? Consider your food's history. Every food has an autobiography. A biography is what I wanted to say. Every piece of food is on the spectrum somewhere. Be as far to the micronutrient healthy side of the spectrum as you possibly can be every point in time. Know when to not have to worry about that stuff. Like I often say, eat the birthday cake at the birthday party, but you don't have to crush a whole sleeve of Oreos when you're at home 2 p.m. on Tuesday, right? So again, start thinking about your food. Who had it before me? What was the life of this animal? What was sprayed on this? What's inside of this? What happened in the packaging process? Was this heated up? Was it frozen? Were there animals in it? Like, was something like crawling all over this? Like, what is this going to do to me? And it's also not just like the history of the food, as in like the Carfax or the biography. It's like the history of your food. How long have people been eating this stuff? I don't know about you, but I don't think we have too many years of research knowing what Quest bars do to the human body, or what certain V words do to the body, right? What certain drinks, mass gainers, all these pre-workouts, Zins, right? The Geek Bar, all that stuff. If you're watching this channel, you're not doing any of that stuff. I hope God you're not. But consider your food's history. This will change everything. I'm always trying to give you guys light bulb moments. This was one for me. I hope it can be for you.